Okay, I am sharing and introducing my own personal training challenge that I'm doing through the WNBA season. And I'll give you a little bit of background on why I'm doing this, what I'm hoping to get out of it. I'm going to share exactly what my training is, exactly what my nutrition's like, and even share all of my challenges and how I'm planning for ultimately to meet these goals that I'm setting for myself. So, to back up a little bit, over the last couple years, and I've talked a little bit about this before, going back probably 2, 3 years. So during the pandemic, post pandemic, I had found myself just in a place I did not like, and I did not want to stay there. One of the things that was going on is I had a lot of like aches and pains pop up. It seemed like all of a sudden overnight. I'm sure that wasn't the reality, but one thing in particular with my right knee just started having a lot of inflammation in that knee, pain that was associated with the inflammation. And through our season last year, I really was locked in on how can I make this better. Because when we travel, I tend to have less distractions and my schedule is a little more predictable. Just not having kid things and family things come up, which is usually something that I love doing, but does take up some time and provides just surprises. So anyhow, through the season last year, I was able to really work on getting my knee feeling better. And I succeeded. I was able to effectively sort of strengthen my legs was one of the problems. I needed to be stronger to just support what the joint needed to do, and also was able to just work on getting the majority of that inflammation out of the joint. It's still a little iffy sometimes. There's days when I can feel that there's more inflammation than not in there, but it's something that I'm just managing now, and all in all is dramatically better than where it was about a year ago. So as I entered into our off season for this past off season, now that my knee was feeling better, I really wanted to focus on working on sort of more athletic qualities in my training, meaning sprint speeds, power production type of stuff, jump higher, run faster, that sort of thing. And that's what I spent the majority of the off season doing. My thought was that if I did that, I would, and got my legs, continued to get my legs stronger, that I should see some lean mass improvements. And to compare my DEXA scans too. So I had one done in probably August, September of last year, and then had another one done more recently in, I think, the beginning of May or so. And what I was expecting to see was different than what I actually saw. I really was very consistent with my training through the off season, and expected to see some lean mass in my legs in particular, but I didn't see that. I saw some lean mass improvements in my upper body, which is completely not unusual. My upper body seems to just always be able to add a little bit of little bits of mass too. I also saw lean mass added in like my trunk region, which probably is literally my midsection a little bit there, and my back, and also the glutes. So I mean that was good, but again I was really expecting to see some lean mass in my hamstrings and quads, which I didn't see. So that was just a little bit frustrating, and I decided to sort of come up with this next challenge for myself, which is, I'm very excited, isn't so much about just making my one joint feel better. It's more so about something a little bit more aggressive, which is adding some lean mass. So what I've got here is this section here is basically my starting numbers. So 158's my body weight roughly. This 41 is fat mass in pounds, so 41 pounds of fat. And then this is my lean mass, 117. And then I did two sort of scenarios here as far as where am I trying to go. And this was just when I was really trying to figure it out. I like my body weight where it is. And so I wanted to see, okay, if I keep my body weight where it is, but lose some lean mass, but lose some fat mass, how much lean mass do I have to actually put on? And that was where this calculation came from. So to go from 117 pounds of lean mass to 128 is really not realistic in the time frame that I'm talking about. So this one I'm having to kind of cross off the list because that's a lot of lean mass and still looking at losing, 11 pounds of fat mass. So that one, maybe can be more of a really long range goal, but I wanted to come up with something that, while it might be challenging, at least I think it's realistic. So that's where this one came from. So what I'm looking at is attempting to add, 4 or 5 pounds of lean mass. I'd be really happy with that, and reduce some body fat as well. But part of behind that is, why not just try to go all in on adding the lean mass? Well, one of the other things from my DEXA that, again, I was sort of imagining might change a little bit based on how I was training is there's a huge difference between how much body fat I have on my upper half and how much body fat I have on my lower half. So it's actually a 10% difference. My upper body is like pretty lean, and then my lower body is not. So there's a 10% body fat difference there, and I'm really hoping that if I lock in and focus and get the right training and nutrition strategies going, that I may be able to move the needle a little bit on that fat distribution and become just a little bit more even. I would love to see a little movement there. I would love to see a little bit of movement on the lean mass building. I know I can lose the body fat, and so we'll just sort of see how it goes. But that's what the goal is. That's my challenge for myself. If we look in, let's just take a look at the lift tab first. So this is a rough setup. I end up taking this is kind of a worksheet. I take this and then put it into the app that we use for clients to actually deliver the program to myself. So here we've got it's 4 days of lifting, and two out of the 4 days I'm trying to do at home or at like a hotel gym is what I'm imagining. So the gym I have set up at my house is just free weights, limited equipment. I do have a trap bar, barbell, that sort of thing. And usually you can expect to find the same stuff at the fitness centers for the hotels we stay at. And then 2 days are days that I have to be like in a commercial gym to just have access to some machines to get, again, what I'm hoping is the right amount of volume on my legs in particular to build that mass. So this is very different from the way I've been training for like years and years. I haven't trained like this in probably 15 years at least. The big differences being, if you look at the volumes here, this is all like really high volume. So I'm not locked in on that power production, strength building style of training. I'm just seeing how much load can I get on my muscles to see if we can stimulate some growth. So again, because this is so different from how I've been training for a long time, I think that I have a really good chance of being successful. So this is roughly just what the sort of the beginning template for the training looks like. And then over here, I'm just attempting to track how many sets and exercises I'm doing for each group through the week. So you can take a look at that. But these are things that'll get adjusted as we go. All right. So next up, if we take a look at weekly targets, I'm being pretty simple with this. We'll get into some more complex stuff that I'm tracking here in a sec. But this is week by week. And you can see there've been 2 weeks so far. I'm just starting today as I'm recording this, week 3. But we've got my calorie targets, protein, carb, fats, fiber, and then how many steps I'm trying to get in. So that's where we're at. And you'll notice, I'll go ahead and point this out now while we're here. The only change that I'm making from the last 2 weeks, which is what we'll talk about, no calorie changes. Just going to bump up my steps a little bit to something that I think is more where I like to be on kind of a daily and weekly basis. All right, so if we check out on the tracking sheet, this is really detailed. It's got a lot of cool information, but this is ultimately when you like put it all together, this is where you can sort of see, for something like I'm trying to do, which is pretty precise, I want to be able to see where the trouble spots are, and then over this long period of time, just even visually to see, okay, how many of those spots were there, or were they pretty minimized? So I think the visualization of this will really help me over time. So as I said, like, this is an in-season challenge, and what I've got here is my schedule for the season. Being able to like never forget what our schedule is really important. And I think would be really important for anybody that just has a lot of things that they have to fit into their daily life. So this, I think, really is going to help me figure out and like stay in touch and have that pulse on what my schedule actually is, to see where these things can get fit in. Okay, so as I'm trying to record this, I'm getting peppered with questions from my daughter about summer PE and how to register for that. So, okay, let's keep going. So anyhow, staying in touch with that schedule, having a pulse on that is really important, and just taking the time to look forward into what challenges you may have coming up. So this is just where I plug in what I've done each day, as far as how much I've eaten, or how little I've eaten, what my training has been, that sort of thing. So I'm going to come back to this in a second and talk about that highlighted area. But as you can see here, we've got week 1 in this first section, week 2 in the second section. And first spot here, this is the resistance training. I'm just kind of noting what style lift I did and how much actual volume. And so volume is just the actual weight that you lifted times the number of reps. And I'm not calculating this myself. It's just automatically given to me by the app that we use for clients at the end of the lift. So that's an easy thing to plug in. My watch gives me the calories that I've burned. For whatever it's worth, I am not the kind of person that tries to go in and just crush myself during lifts. Honestly, I just feel at this point like I'm too old for that. My body doesn't ever feel good enough off the jump to go in full force that way. So I'm just not the person that's going to try to burn like 400 calories in 35 minutes. It's going to take me a solid hour to get those 400 calories. Also cardio tracking here. These last 2 weeks have been kind of unusual. I just have not had the opportunity to get out for the runs that I normally do. So it's really just been walks. But that is something that I've found is hugely helpful for me. No matter how tired I am, how my body feels on a given day, how busy I am even, I can like almost always squeeze in a walk to just sort of clear my mind. Or my husband and I go for walks after dinner as much as we can, and that's an opportunity to connect, clear my mind, like I said, and just have a healthy habit. So I rely on walks big time to help me hit step goals, not my running. The running is for different purposes. Other things I'm tracking here, how much I'm sleeping each night, and then how much deep sleep I'm getting. I feel like I'm sort of borderline on the low end of deep sleep, but when I hit that hour plus, which you can see the hour plus rarely happens, I really feel good. So this is something, because at least lately I'm only getting about 6 hours of sleep each night. I know that if I'm also able to get about an hour of deep sleep, I'm probably going to feel pretty good the next day. And if I'm not getting that deep sleep, that's just a trigger for me to, maybe look at what my routine was the night before and see if that needs to change for the night coming up, because I just really need to get that hour at least. Other things here: how sore, hungry, how much energy, how much am I thinking about food, and then if I'm having my period or not. The food focus tracking thing is a newer one for me, and it's something that I think is just fascinating, and is different than actual physical hunger. So I'm excited to be tracking that, and see how things change as we go. Now, if we go back to the actual calorie tracking, I'm just going to talk about this one section that I highlighted and talk through what sort of led to these things, because I ended up being just a touch above what those targets were that we set out, in those week by week blocks. So I think the target is, maybe 1,875 calories, something like that. And if we look here, so we were playing in Seattle on a Saturday, and after that game, got on a red-eye flight to arrive back on the East Coast at, like 7 in the morning. So that ends up being a really long day for me, and a day in which I did not get any quality sleep. Probably generously, I'll say I slept for 2 hours on the plane. But the sleep for me on a plane is never very deep. So I know I didn't get any deep sleep. But so then what happens is, I haven't slept much. I go home, I kind of crash and, sleep for probably 2 hours once I get home, 2-3 hours maybe. And by the time I wake up, it's 11:30 or so, and I'm just starving, and all I want is something to eat, and to go back to sleep is really, really all I want. So I get up. Inevitably, I don't know what I ate, but I'm sure it wasn't a good choice. I definitely did not cook anything. I just grabbed whatever was around. So this was on Sunday. The other things that were happening in my day on Sunday, outside of trying to navigate my food choices on very little sleep, hanging out with my kids. My son's birthday was the week before, so we were celebrating that since I'd been out of town. I enjoyed whatever it was that we ate for dinner for him, and a enormous piece of chocolate cake. So that was this particular day, and I ate a lot of calories, had a lot of sodium, for these 3-4 days actually, and did not hit my protein goal, which is probably one of the most important things to hit on a daily basis. The carbs and fats don't necessarily matter so much, but hitting that protein goal is really important. And so that was on that Sunday leading into Monday, which was a big holiday. Again, the goal and the plan was to just enjoy these days, recover from the flight and that travel week, and that's what I did. So it was another just kind of day where I was a little bit over on calories and just much more in my maintenance zone, which is probably right around 2,200 to 2,300 calories. Then going into this next day, which was Tuesday, this was the day when I had intended to kind of be back training, recovered to do that training, and just kind of locked back in. But unfortunately, my son woke up and was just really sick that morning. So we had to go to the doctor and, just take care of him that day. And it ended up being, just sort of a non-ideal day from a training and nutrition perspective. But, it just is what it is. And that's, again, to me, why, for what my goals are, for this period of time, I wouldn't do this ordinarily. I don't track like this in my everyday life, but I do have a goal that I'm locked in on, and I want to be able to see and remember some of these times as I go through week by week. So that was the deal with that day. And then I've been able to finish nutritionally this past week pretty strong, with this day being kind of the one that was most on target. If you check out my resistance training, again, just through this period of a few days where we had a holiday, like travel day 0 sleep was this one. This day was big holiday. And then this was sort of the unexpected sick kid day. Finally got back and got in a good training session last night. So other things here to check out. I've got all my walks noted, which is about all I've gotten done this week. Steps have been all over the place. Yesterday, pretty low. It was a travel day. Spent most of the day on a bus or on a plane or in a car. So that again was what it was. But as I said, I was able to get a good resistance training session sort of late last night. Other than that, it just sort of is what it is. So got all my tracking in. Let's go ahead and see what my progress has been. So this is the next spreadsheet that just kind of takes all the information I've entered and spits out, if I'm on targets or not. Now, what you can see is sort of a slow start on me even just tracking my weight. I literally have not weighed myself since I started this. That will change next week. But that is what it is, so we can kind of skip right by that. Here are the calories of just actual calories. So this is the same information we saw in that last spreadsheet. And then just where it gets kind of interesting is here we're seeing what the averages are for all the macros, protein, carbs, fats, fiber, and then calories overall. So you can see week 1, I was like really just kind of right on what my calorie goal was. Compliance was 103%. For my protein average, 136 average per day, which was again 103%. So that's pretty good. Average steps, a little over 10,000. Excellent. Happy with that stuff. This past week, just because of some of those challenges that I already talked through, I think probably the most dead-on part of this was the protein hit at 100%, so that's great. Steps were a little bit low, and as I showed you, all over the place, but I still got 95%, which is cool. And then, last thing here is my calorie compliance. So I was a bit over. I was over by 12%, and that's something that, I just have to make that adjustment for next week, and because that is something that would, prevent me from ultimately seeing the changes that I want to see in the way that I want to see them. So I'll make that adjustment. But this is all giving me really great information about what I need to do heading into this upcoming week, and how I can just kind of tweak things. The main thing here, though, just going back to this tough period, this tough week really, is just kind of having some grace with myself. Like, me not hitting what I had planned from a training and dietary perspective does not mean that I've sort of lost the game, right? I have not. And when I'm able to look at it in a whole week, I can see it was pretty minor, and over 2 weeks, very minor. I have lots more weeks to go, and this is just sort of a little blip on the radar, and it's really no problem. So I'm just going to keep pushing forward, go into this next week, and try to hit these higher step goals and be a little bit closer to my macro and calorie targets. Now, so I'm going to continue to share this, hopefully on a week-by-week basis. That's my goal. Share the training with you guys. I'm going to go ahead and try to share the lift program with you all, which should be down in the comments section or in the notes section to share that spreadsheet if you want to try the lift program. So, and actually, I might actually end up sharing the link to the app that we use. But either way, I'm going to share that lift program with you guys, and hopefully, get to hear some comments about how it's going. please feel free to ask me questions. I'll literally answer them, and I'll be happy to answer them. I would love to answer questions. All right, have a great week.